Welcome to our session today, Designing Exemplary Online Courses in Blackboard. We're so glad that you've joined us today. For those of you that are participating live during our online workshop offered today on September 12th, 2014, as well as those of you that are viewing the online archive of today's session. Either way, we're really pleased to have you with us today to look more at designing exemplary online courses in Blackboard. My name is Jason Rohde, and I am the Director of the Faculty Development and Instructional Design Center at Northern Illinois University. Here's my contact information. I'd be happy to follow up with any of you after today's session if you'd like to talk more about the specifics of designing a course, following some of these best practices, as well as be happy to put you in touch with any of my colleagues here in faculty development as well, who are available to provide assistance as needed. So with that, we're going to jump right in today, and I'm excited to share this session as today we're going to be taking a look at best practices for setting up and creating an online course. And the practices that we're going to talk about and highlight are those that are included in Blackboard's Exemplary Online Course Program Rubric. And I'll talk a little more about that rubric. It's really designed for creating and designing engaging online courses. And so today during the workshop, my hope is to share some practical tips for building a course in Blackboard that meets established quality benchmarks, and also provide some links for you to some sample award-winning course tours that you can actually get in and take a look at yourself. We'll also cover during the workshop today the steps for if you wish to have your course be considered as an exemplary online course and be reviewed. If you are interested in that process, I'm going to share some more information about that and how you could submit your course for consideration as a Blackboard exemplary course. And today's workshop, it is geared for those that are already familiar with the basic tools that are available in Blackboard. So we're not really going to talk about the nuts and bolts of how Blackboard works, but more or less give you some ideas for how you might lay out a course in Blackboard that follows these exemplary online course strategies and best practices that we're going to talk about here today. So with that, I'm going to throw out the question, and we started to discuss this before we got started here today. And for those of you participating live, perhaps if you've not had a chance yet to share your answer in the text chat, you can do that. Those of you watching the archive, something for you to think about: what constitutes a quality online course? I think we all have been in experiences. We've had high quality face-to-face learning experiences, I hope, and chances are some of you have also been in, I hope, some high quality, engaging online experiences. But what constitutes online quality? So as I look back through the text chat, we've already had some great comments that were shared by those of you that had logged in prior to our session. And Jackie mentioned about having tools that can engage students, things like video clips or slides, using social media and somehow incorporating that. These are all, Jackie, you shared some really great suggestions there, and Anastasia, you pointed out the importance of having it be easy to navigate. And navigation, I think, is really key. That, if you can't find the information or the resources, the tools and such, it's going to be a really frustrating experience for students. So really good points there. Isabel, you talked about having engagement built in with material and colleagues. This idea of interaction, which I'm going to talk a little more about during the workshop today, is really key. Dan, you made a great point about developing a sense of community. Kate, you talked about having a clear, not only the navigation piece, but giving the same access to knowledge within that online environment as you would in a face-to-face environment, and making it meaningful. All just really fantastic points. And there are many others. And I bring up this question because there are some of these general principles that I think probably everyone would agree to, and then there may be other variations. It may vary by discipline, by level of student perhaps, in terms of what their expectations would be for quality. And so what we're going to try to talk about today are some of the baseline benchmark types of standards, something that I think in any course we would agree upon that these would be elements of quality. And that's really what we're going to focus on here today throughout the workshop. Now, there are varying different programs or rubrics or sets of standards out there for online courses, quality standards, if you will. And the one we're going to focus on today is Blackboard's Catalyst program that offers a set of standards. Now, the Blackboard Catalyst program, which you'll hear me talking about today, it's an award program that honors those who push the boundaries of their educational programs and technology in order to deliver innovative and effective learning experiences. And the Catalyst Award program, there are a variety of different categories of award types. And the one that we're going to focus on today is the Exemplary Course Award category. And this is a category of awards that recognize courses that represent the very best in teaching and learning. So these are courses that have been peer-reviewed and have been deemed exemplary by the fact that they meet a baseline set of quality standards, which we're going to kind of talk through and take a look at today. But there are other Catalyst Awards, including things like the Student Impact Award, Innovation Award, and Staff Development Awards. These are some of the various categories. But like I said, we're going to focus on the Exemplary Course Award program, and with it, the accompanying Exemplary Course Program information that's available. You can learn more about the Exemplary Course Program at blackboard.com/ECP, and I'll put the link in the text chat there. Information and deadlines and all of those kind of detail items are found on this site, and I'll share this link again a little bit later. But in particular, what I want to look at today is the Exemplary Course Program rubric. Now, this is a set of standards, quality standards that have been they're based on research as well as best practices put together by leading scholars and experts in the field of online teaching and learning. And this rubric, it can be used for evaluation of courses as well as can be really helpful for those that are building online courses. And this rubric really looks at 4 key areas: course design, interaction and collaboration, assessment, and learner support. So those are these 4 key areas. And the rubric recognizes courses that demonstrate excellence in course design, interaction and collaboration, assessment, and learner support. So those 4 key areas, there are the criteria within each of those areas that have been established. And the Exemplary Course rubric within the Exemplary Course Program is used by volunteer course reviewers to rate nominated courses. It's a very comprehensive set of standards, and it offers not only the criteria but valuable tips for how you can improve an online course's design. And I know it's hard for you're not going to be able to read much off of the slide here. This rubric is available as a PDF that you can download from the link here on your slide, j.mp/bbecp rubric 14. I made a short link because it's a rather long URL. But you can go there, you can download the rubric, and you can take a look at it yourself. Regardless of whether or not you choose to participate in the Exemplary Course Program, you can use the rubric as a guide and offer some really great tips and suggestions as you start to think about structuring your own online course. So with that in mind, what we're going to do is kind of drill down a little bit. I want to share with you and kind of highlight some of these 4 key areas and what do they consist of. So within the rubric, the course design area, first of all, looks at elements of instructional design. And these include things like the structure of the course, the learning objectives that you have in the course, overall organization of the content, as well as instructional strategies. So just by virtue of the way the course is set up and the various activities that are built in, is this design something that's going to promote learner success? So that's the first key area. Then this idea of interaction and collaboration. I want to clarify these two terms because sometimes they're used interchangeably, but the rubric does provide a distinction here. This idea of interaction is really dealing with the communication that happens between and among learners and instructors. And this could happen synchronously as well as asynchronously. And so that's this idea of interaction. Now, in addition to that, there's this concept of collaboration. So that the difference here is this is a subset of interaction. So this is specifically where you have a group that is working interdependently toward a shared result. So this is where you have students maybe in a prolonged activity or series of activities. They are working together to accomplish a goal. That is what we would refer to as collaboration. And so those terms, interaction can happen in a lot of different ways. I think Isabel mentioned it earlier that interaction can happen between the instructor and the learners. It can happen between the students and the content, and many different ways in which interaction can happen. And this idea of a learning community is something I think that was also mentioned earlier, and it refers to this idea of a sense of belonging to a group rather than each student studying independently. And so and there's been just lots and lots of research that's been done that talks about the sense of if students feel a sense of community, they're more likely to persist through the course and have a better experience overall. And so there are different ways in which you can build that sense of community online so that it is akin in many ways to that kind of community that you can have in a face-to-face course. You can achieve that same sense online. Now the third area, the third portion of the rubric is devoted to assessment. This is looking at instructional activities and whether or not they're designed to measure progress towards learning outcomes. Do they provide feedback to the students? And do they also enable grade assignment in some way? So, what are the assessments in the course? Do they tie into the course objectives? These are all things that the rubric stresses. And then the fourth area or domain within the rubric of standards has to do with learner support. Is learner support being addressed? Are resources available to students taking the course? So do they have links to the different things that they're going to need? Are there resources maybe for other support services and things outside of the course that are linked to? So for example, do you have a link to the library or the Disability Resource Center for students that may need an accommodation? Do you have that information readily available to the students? And do you have those resources that address a variety of student services? Perhaps a link to the Writing Center if students may need assistance with writing in the course. These are the kinds of support items that it's helpful to include to make it very easy for students to get the help they need without having to go and search for the answers. And so those are the four major areas. And then within those, in the rubric, there are subcategories. And you can see kind of they're listed here under each of the four categories. And this is the way the rubric is set up, and as you download it and take a look at it at some point, it's really clear how it's broken down. We're going to touch on a number of these here today as we go through and talk about examples and share some best practices. So what I'm going to do today is I'm really talking just from my experience. I'm going to share with you a sample course. This is a course, it's ETT 510. It's a course called Instructional Media and Technology. It's a course that I was asked to teach a year ago now. So last fall, I taught this course. It was my first time teaching the course. It was a 10-week online course. It's within the graduate program, the Technology Specialist Online Cohort Program that we have here at NIU through the Department of Educational Technology, Research, and Assessment. This course was 10 weeks in length, not the traditional 16-week course length, more of an accelerated course length, which is how this particular program here is set up. And I did have an initial face-to-face meeting, but the rest of the course was completely online. This course had been taught before in a different system, a different learning management system called Moodle, and I did receive a syllabus, but I didn't have a lot of other information going along with it. It was I kind of had to, in a sense, I was kind of starting from scratch, setting it up in Blackboard, and taught it for the first time in this fall 2013. And I did, as I was setting it up, I followed the exemplary course rubric kind of as my guide, and I did submit this course for review. It was peer-reviewed, and I'm happy to report that it was awarded and received the distinction of being an exemplary course. This course that I'm going to share with you today during the workshop, I have made it available. I've built out a version of it in our Blackboard system without any students in it. It's just in a sample course environment that is available for other NIU faculty to get in and take a look at. So if it's something that you would be interested in being enrolled in, I'll give you instructions at the end of the workshop today how you can get in touch with me and let me know, and I can enroll you in that course and you can take a look at it yourself. So everything I'm going to show you, I've got some screenshots and things here. You'll have access to all of this if you wish, if you'd like to get in and take a closer look. Now this course, and I do also want to say this, is it's not the definitive way you have to design and teach an online course. It's just one example of a course that does happen to meet these exemplary course standards. And so there's a picture of me receiving just the proof that I did receive the award. I received the award this summer, and I did put together some more information about the course, a little course tour. I'll put the link in the text chat here, but it's also, you'll have the link here on the slides that you can get to. And I'll send these links out again in my follow-up email next week. I'm also happy to report a second NIU course that received the distinction of being an exemplary course from this last year, and that was Perspectives on Disability MOOC, or Massive Open Online course that Dr. Greg Long, one of our presidential teaching professors, developed with some support from our office, some assistance. And this is an open online course that is actually available for anyone in the world to enroll in and participate in. And I'll put the link to information about that in the text chat as well. So we do have a couple of NIU examples already of courses that have met the standard. And what's really neat about the program is it's open to anybody to submit their course to be reviewed. And along the way, you get some really great feedback and ideas for how you can improve your courses moving forward. So my course will be the one that I'll be sharing the most examples from today, but I am going to point you to examples and places where you can find other exemplary courses. So as I mentioned, the ETT 510, this sample course that I'm going to talk about, instructional media and technology, this is what the front page, the login page looked like, and this is the course that I'll be kind of walking you through here today. And as I go through the course, I'm going to try to touch on each of some aspects from each of these 4 key areas within the rubric. So I'm going to talk about the course design. I'll talk about interaction and collaboration a little bit and how I tried to foster that in the course. I'll talk about assessment and the kind of assessment tools and things that I built in, as well as the kind of the learner support pieces. So you can get a sense here of kind of what we're going to touch on in the example that we go through here together. So I mentioned the welcome or the start here page, and as we go along here, those of you participating live, if you have questions, again, you can just put those in the text chat as we go, and I'll monitor that. But the welcome page. So in Blackboard, you can customize what students first see when they log in. So there's a default kind of home page currently in Blackboard. There's also an announcements area that is a common place that faculty will set as the entry point of their course. What I did in my course is I created a separate content area that I called Welcome or Start Here. And That's where I put the banner, and I put some information about the course here for the students. So the first time they logged into my course, they saw a quick overview of the course. They saw things like the course description, they saw an overview, I had some tips for getting started. So I made it really self-explanatory for the students the first time they logged into the course. And then I had some things like meeting dates, my contact information, and in this program, students also had access to an online support specialist, and so that person was listed there as well. So that front page of the course, I put this information, and then after the first week or so of the course, after everybody was acclimated, had logged in, was familiar with the course itself, I changed this entry point to actually be my announcements page. So throughout the rest of the course, when students would log in, they saw the announcements. It was the first thing that they saw. But this was nice to have a place where students could go and they could be welcomed to the course. And the ETRA department has now a standard kind of welcome page, and this modeled after this page that we use in all of the technology specialist cohort Blackboard courses within the graduate program that I teach. Another of the attributes within the rubric specifies having goals and objectives that are easily located. And so what I did is I had an area of the course, and by the way, this course menu, which I'll talk about, you can customize this in Blackboard. The menu that you see here is kind of the default menu that this cohort program started out with, and we've evolved it a little bit since. But within this overview area, I included the objectives right up here towards the top. So right underneath where I had the syllabus, and I had a printable quick guide for the students, which is a one-page kind of a printable version of the key assignment due dates and such. There was the description of the catalog, and then right down here to the overview and objectives. So the students could see very clearly what those stated objectives were for the course. And the rubric also calls for having those goals and objectives be available in multiple areas, so making it really easy for students to find things. I also included those objectives right on my Welcome Start Here page, right here under the course learning objectives. Those are listed there as well. A little bit redundant, but my experience from students and similar research that's been done points to the fact that users like to have options in terms of navigation and getting to where they want to go. And so those objectives are really important to the course, and so making those easily available to the students is important. Now, something else that is a really good idea from a best practice, and something that I've advocated for a long time, even before taking a look and working from the exemplary course rubric, is this idea of managing, putting the content out there in chunks that are manageable. So having some way that you're going to organize the content in your course. So in this particular course, I used the chunk of a unit. And so I had the course menu had an item called units. This is a content area. And then you can see that there was a folder for each of the chunks of the course units. This particular course, each unit was about a week long. And so you can notice that each chunk, each folder, each unit had, there was some consistency. I had listed the topics in the description. I listed what the objectives were for that particular unit. And you'll notice here that it's very clear for the students. They can see which units. I even put the dates right in the title so that they knew kind of at what time we were working on what particular portion of the course. So having a way of chunking the course into manageable segments is really important and a really good idea from a best practice. And then having that structure be consistent. So I showed you the folder structure, the list of folders. There was consistency there, but then also going inside of each unit, having some consistent unit structure. So thinking about how you're going to organize that chunk of the course, and having something like I chose to have an overview, which is just a quick description. I had my objectives for that particular unit listed there. Then I had, for example, my readings and resources, as well as activities and assignments. So I kept it consistent each and every week so that it was predictable and the students knew what to expect each time they entered into a new unit. And so what I did in Blackboard is I built a kind of a template unit folder with all of these pieces in kind of a template form built out, and then I just copied that folder for each of my units. And so I started out having kind of a really nice structure in place, placeholders for me to then enter my overview, my objectives, and so forth. And it was a really handy way to quickly be able to create a consistent structure in the course. And somebody mentioned the importance of navigation. I don't recall who it was in our text chat before we started today, but it's so important. Having navigation that's easy for the students, it's intuitive, it makes sense. And so here you can see the navigation that I used in my course. And you have complete control over what you want your navigation to be set up in your course, but having it be intuitive for the student. So for me, and just to kind of walk you through the logic behind my course navigation structure was, at the top, I started with things that they would need at the beginning of the course. So I mentioned my welcome, start here page. I also had announcements near the top. These were course updates, things that the students would need. And then I also had information about myself, where I had a Your Instructor link where they could go in and find my contact information. I also had a link for your classmates. Because this program, this is a cohort-based program, and this happened to be the first course in the cohort, I wanted to provide a place where students could see, their classmates and could connect with them. And so I had a place where I put, for example, a picture of each student, because that first face-to-face class meeting, each student had their picture taken, and so we were able to put that here within the course. And then after that, I created a little divider, and then after that I had a segment of my course menu that had the course content, the activities, and the assessments. So just the overall content was kind of broken up into this section. And then beneath that, I had another section here for interaction. So my online meetings, my discussions, and my email. So those communication or interaction tools and approaches, those were in a segment. And at the bottom, this is where I had information in terms of reflection, feedback, and any self-paced assistance that my students might need. So I had an area, a content item called Learner Support, where I put the links to those kind of helpful resources and other offices, things that students might need. And then collaboration took place in their group down below. So in Blackboard, when you set up a group and you add students to a group, they access that down below the course menu down in this My Groups kind of area. So you can see where that would appear for the students. So I tried to make the navigation intuitive and have some logic into why I set it up. And so hopefully my explanation here makes sense to you, and it seemed that the students, for the most part, it made sense to them. Something else that the rubric calls for is that content would flow in a logical progression. So again, having rhyme or reason to why you put things in the course and where you put them. So one of the things I did is I had a content item called readings. And my thought was, I did have a textbook for this course, but I also each week wanted to provide some additional electronic readings, or maybe a couple of YouTube videos, clips, things to just kind of add to the dimension of having the textbook. So what I did is I created a folder for each of my units. And so I titled it the name of the unit. In the description, I listed for each folder what were the textbook readings. So you can see here in this Unit 1, I had some textbook readings, and then I had some additional resources, and I listed what those were. So all of that could be found inside of this Unit 1 folder. So by clicking that, the students could get all of that content in one piece. And so what I did is I tried to organize the content as best as I could, as far in advance as I could, so that the students, if they wanted to read ahead, they could do that. They could skip from Unit 1, they could go down to Unit 2, and this was all available to them in the course. So having a logical progression of the content, whether it's readings or other resources, is really helpful, something to think about. The rubric also calls for having content being presented in a variety of appropriate mechanisms. So what does that mean? Well, thinking about what is the content that you have, and are you using maybe different and kind of varying the kinds of content that you put out there. So this is an example. This is within one of my readings. I set up what's called a learning module. So it's basically taking content, combining them with images, And it's available within the course, and students can click to advance either forward or backward. They can click these buttons here to experience the content. So it's not just reading a PDF or watching a video, but it gives them a means of going through that content in a different way. And then also looking for opportunities to enhance the content with visual and auditory elements. So here you can see, for example, this is inside of my Unit 2 Readings and Resources folder. I listed again the textbook readings the students had, and then I had a PDF, an article for them to read. I also had, I put a couple of YouTube videos. I embedded them directly in here in my Unit 2 folder. So everything that the student would need in terms of the content that I had them experience, whether it was video or read, or it could have been an audio clip, all of that is in one spot. And so they know exactly where it is, where they can access that. You'll notice on these, I tried something that the students seem to like, and that's this review status option. So underneath each of the items, so underneath this video clip, up here underneath this PDF file, for example, I know that it's hard to see on your screen, but there's an option there, a little radio button that students can click on to, in essence, kind of virtually keep track of what they've looked at, like a little check off where they can mark that they reviewed that particular item. You can enable that for any piece of content in Blackboard, and it's just a way of providing students the opportunity to keep track of kind of what they've viewed and what they've experienced. Something else that's a really good idea, and something that the rubric does call for, is to provide guidance for learners to work with the content. So making it clear to them what they're supposed to do with the content that you put in the course. So maybe you're going to upload, a PDF article or a PowerPoint presentation or something. What are they supposed to do with that? So it could be just as simple as providing some text instructions to, read this and be prepared to discuss it. If you want to go the video route, which is something I tried and was really well received by my students, is I would record quick little introductions to the unit where I would explain what the students were to do with the content and the activities that I had put inside of the course. And it was a great way of kind of creating that sense of community and presence in the course, but it made it really clear for my students. I was able to use that video clip of just me talking to them to be able to explain what it is that they were to do. The rubric calls for using tools within the LMS for engaging students with the course content, and I think somebody alluded to that earlier about having tools that engage students, and there's different ways of doing that. Certainly, we can't touch on all of them here today, but things like Blackboard now has a calendar tool, which when you add something to your course, if you put a due date, that tool actually, it'll show up in the course calendar. So here you can see that everything in my course, the units began and ended on Thursdays. So Thursdays was a really busy time in my course. There's several things due or listed here for the students. And each of these are clickable. So they could click on one of these items in their calendar and they'd be able to go in and complete that activity right there. Something that I tried in my course that is certainly possible, you're not limited to just using Blackboard tools. I used a YouTube playlist, and what I did is anytime I created a video, I uploaded it to my YouTube account, and then I added it to a course playlist that I set up. And what this did is it made it possible for the students to view my course videos that I used in my course, not just within Blackboard, but they could be on any device, their computer, a mobile device, and the playlist, it was really neat because it was a combination of, you can see here, a couple of videos that I recorded at the top, and then down below are a couple of the videos that I had students watch during my first unit of the course. So it just kind of gave a nice list of everything that the students could watch, and they could go back and they could rewatch certain clips. It worked out really neat. So that's certainly possible. And I recommend faculty, this is not only in the rubric, but I think it's really just a good idea overall, is to try and make use of low-cost or no-cost materials when they're available. So thinking about not having to reinvent the wheel per se, but if there maybe is a great video clip already out there on YouTube, or another open educational resource that you can link to and make available, that's really great to use those kind of low cost or no cost materials that are just increasingly out there on the web. So this is an example here on this slide of I was talking about Bloom's taxonomy in this particular unit. And here's a video clip that it was kind of explaining Bloom's taxonomy according to Pirates of the Caribbean. It was kind of a fun, different way of explaining and drawing some parallels, and so it just kind of gave a light spin on kind of what we were talking about in the readings. So be open to using some of those other materials that are out there. The rubric calls for plentiful opportunities for synchronous or asynchronous interaction. So building into your course opportunities for students to discuss with one another, to interact with you as the instructor, and doing that in lots of different ways. And you can use a discussion board for that. For me, that was a common, I had weekly discussions where we did lots of interacting through discussions. That's a very common means of doing that. Also, you can provide other kinds of activities where students are reflecting, where you're promoting critical reflection. And so this is one of my discussions, an example of what's called a post-first discussion in Blackboard. What you can do is you can create a discussion forum that is set up and that requires students to first post their initial response before they're able to see the other students' responses. And what often happens in online discussions prior to having this capability is, the first student in posts their idea, and then there's that temptation after the 10th student is posted for those remaining students to go in and take a look at what everyone has already said, and maybe they don't give quite as original of ideas. This post-first setting does really promote a more authentic kind of response, because students can't get in and peek at what someone else has already said. They have to give their initial idea first. So that's an option that you do have in Blackboard that you can certainly make use of in trying to promote that critical thinking piece. Something else that you can use are journals. In Blackboard, there's a tool, a reflection journal tool, and something I had my students do is I had 10 units in my course, and so at the end of every unit, I had the students post a self-assessment reflection journal post. So they had a journal that they posted to throughout the course. And so this was an opportunity each week for them to reflect on their learning in the course. And these were private, just between them and myself. So each student could only see their posts. I could see each individual student's posts. What was great about the journal is I was able to post comments back to the students privately, but none of the other students could see it. So it was really a really nice feedback mechanism throughout the course for me to get a sense of where students were at, what were some of their takeaways, their aha moments, if you will, as they were going through the course. And it's just another tool that you have available that you can incorporate into your course. And so, quite frankly, in each one of my online courses now, I build in a reflection kind of requirement and have my students reflect. It doesn't take them a lot of time each week, but it's a really good habit to get students starting to be reflective about their learning. I think it helps solidify a lot of the learning that happens. Something else that in this program that I teach in is a requirement is to have some synchronous communication activities where we have real-time interaction. And so there are, you can use a tool like Blackboard Collaborate, like we're using here today for those of you participating live in the workshop. There's also another tool used on campus here called Adobe Connect currently that gives similar kinds of real-time functionality where the students, they were able to see me, they could ask questions, we had discussions and such. And so be thinking about, you may want to incorporate some real-time kinds of communications in your courses. Designing to build communication in such a way that it helps build a sense of community is really something that is valued in the literature, and that just my experience in teaching now from hearing from my students, that in an online course you can really develop that sense of community. So this is an example of an activity using a blog in the course where I had the students each create a little profile. So they just put a picture and kind of introduce themselves, but it was a way of starting to build that sense of community in the course. And because I was teaching in a cohort program, it built that sense of community within the cohort. The rubric does require that you have student-to-student interactions required in the course. So it's not just enough to use Blackboard to put up some resources, but to get students starting to interact with one another. So this is a screenshot of my one-page quick guide that I give my students for my course, where I break down the course. For each module, I list what the columns are, or the readings are. I list out any assignments, and then if we're going to be meeting, I list those out, whether it's face-to-face or if we're going to be meeting synchronously online. So they can see that, it's obvious, and they can know exactly what's expected of them. Something that the rubric calls for, another aspect, is to have collaboration that reinforces learning outcomes. So thinking about ways in which you're getting students to work together toward a shared goal. My course, I did have a group project that it was broken down into several milestones that I had the students work together to complete. So different phases, they would submit those, and I did make that a requirement. And then having clear guidelines for what you expect of the students is really key. And so in my course, when I would put the for whatever the assignment was, I try to be as explicit as possible how they're going to be graded. I went as far as to even put a copy of the rubric in a table form right in the instructions for the particular assignment. So they could see the rubric right there, and then they would click to complete it. And I made a digital version of the rubric in Blackboard so that I could grade with it. It's called an interactive rubric. And so students could see exactly how they were being assessed, and there really were no surprises. So students appreciate that. And I mentioned a rubric, or having some kind of a document for grading, having that provided to the students is always a good idea. And there's different ways you can do that. Blackboard makes it really simple to just attach a rubric to an assignment. So you create the rubric one time in Blackboard, you can attach it, and then the students can see what those expectations are. The Exemplary Course Program rubric calls for active interaction by the instructor, so that it's not just the students interacting, but that the instructor is actively participating, providing feedback. And so this is an example of a discussion post. I actually did a video discussion post several different times in the course where I would record some video, put that in there. So it wasn't even just text, but you can use video, you can use audio, you can be as creative as you want in providing that kind of interaction for the students. I mentioned earlier that I use video in the course and tried to use the various communication tools that were available for course updates. So I did do a kind of a weekly announcement for my students, and sometimes I would post a video with that. So it was just me talking to them. They could hear from me, and even though it was, I thought of it initially as they would perceive it as more of just a talking head kind of a thing. They really appreciated being able to hear and see me. There was something about that personal touch that it gave to the communication that the students really commented on and remarked how helpful it was. I already alluded to this earlier, but in the assignments that you give in Blackboard, if you can provide clear and sufficient detail in the instructions, the more clear you can be, the less confusion it will raise for the students, and reduce any questions that you might receive from them. A few other items, I'm going to go through these really quickly. And again, you'll have access to any of this if you'd like to go into this sample course and take a closer look. But things like having assessment activities occur frequently throughout the course. So here's a course activities matrix I did for my students where they could see the breakdown of my 10 units, the activities that we had, and the points that they were worth. So you can kind of see the distribution really quickly, that everything wasn't due at the end of the course, but throughout the course they were interacting, they were participating, and those expectations were clear for the students. Trying to use multiple types of assessments varying it up a little bit. And you can do that in Blackboard. You can use different kinds of assessments, from written assessments to discussions and different kinds of collaborative activities. Also, providing opportunities for students to self-assess is something that the rubric encourages. And so thinking about ways in which students are going to be self-assessing, reflecting on their learning. I had the students in this course, they did a self-assessment reflection paper at the end of the course, but you could have them, I mentioned the journal or other kinds of self-assessment activities. And then simple things like making it easy to find instructor contact information. So here's an example of within the Your Instructor area of my course where I put my picture, I quick record a little video, I put that there for my students too. Just made it real easy. That all my contact information was there and the students could access that. Just made it as easy as possible to get in touch. I talked about links to institutional resources, but also just policies in general. What's the academic integrity policy, or what's your policy on incompletes or late work? Putting that there for the students. This is really important, and this has to do with making sure that your course materials are accessible. This means that so that every student can access them. If they have any type of disability, making sure that accommodations are available. Something that you can do with video, and if you're interested, I'm happy to share more details and follow up. But you can, if you record a video and you upload it, Blackboard has a tool for uploading video, recording it in the course and kind of uploading it to your course called Video Everywhere. It has an integration with YouTube where it keeps your videos unlisted. But what it does, what's really neat, is there is an option there to easily transcribe the video so it is accessible. So here you can see an example of one of my videos where students, if they click the little closed caption button in the player, the caption pops up and they can actually watch the caption. They can see it. It's timed to my narration, the speaking, and then also attached to the video, I attached a PDF of the transcript. So I had students that actually preferred to read it or wanted to read it along with hearing me talk. So making sure that whatever materials you put in your course are accessible is really important. And then thinking about other supportive mechanisms for learners with disabilities. I had a student that actually contacted me partway through the course and thanked me for providing a video option for discussions, because it happened to be a student that had a learning disability, and the video option saved him a lot of time, and it was actually a much more accommodating kind of approach for him to participate in the discussions. And so think about, if you happen to have students with disabilities, how are you going to support them in your course? I currently have a colleague who has a blind student in her course, her online course, and so making sure that materials are accessible, that it's easily for someone to navigate that may have a disability. All of these things are really important. This is just a really good idea. This happens to be in the rubric, but I think it's a great idea overall, and that's to give students the opportunity to give you feedback on the course design. And so building in opportunities, I try to do that several times in the course, midway through the course and then at the end of the course. And I do an end-of-course feedback survey that's not related to the instructor evaluation. This is something specific to the course in general in Blackboard, where I ask students, and I actually ask students some questions about how did the course meet the rubric standards, to get a sense of their authentic feedback on that. So I've walked you through my course and just a few of the highlights really quickly of this one sample course. But there are a number of other places where you can go to see some great example courses. One is the Exemplary Course Tours playlist on YouTube. And this listing, this is actually from a year ago, but there are still some great examples. These are, I think there's like over 20 different brief course tours. They're all under 5 minutes or so in that time frame area, where instructors that have designed Blackboard Exemplary courses that have received the award, they actually walk through their course in a high-level detail, and you can get some great ideas for different ways of designing a course, different aspects of an online course that you might want to include. So you may want to check out that playlist of exemplary course tours and kind of go through those. Something you can bookmark in YouTube, and when you have a chance, watch them here and there. Like I said, they're each really brief. Another option that you have is to enroll in some sample courses in what Blackboard calls, it's an ECP Winners Gallery. So the Exemplary Course Program Winners Gallery. Winners of the award that have chosen and opted into sharing their course with others have made them available through Blackboard's course sites, where you can self-enroll, you set up a free account. These are courses that are outside of NIU's Blackboard system in a more of a neutral, institution-neutral Blackboard system called course sites. But you can log in and you can see some other sample courses, which is another great place where you can see examples. So something else you may want to take a look at. Something that has been really helpful that I really enjoyed. So this last fall, after I taught my course, I submitted it to be reviewed, but then I also volunteered to be a reviewer. And what this allows you to do, and you can pick and choose how many courses you'd be willing to review. So for me, I chose to review just one course. And what I did is I was able to explore in depth a different course. I could get a sense of different ideas, I got inspiration, and then what you can do if you volunteer to review, you can apply some of those lessons learned then by becoming even more familiar with that exemplary course rubric to your own courses that you're developing. So it's a really neat way of kind of reinforcing what those kind of shared best practices are. You can also share your knowledge and experience with others by providing feedback on their designs, and you gain that professional development experience and recognition for your accomplishments. So if you participate in the program, you can also say that you volunteered to be a reviewer, and it's just a great way to get more ideas and a great way to give back. So I mentioned that the course that I walked you through quickly here today is available. I do have a sample. It's built out in our NIU Blackboard system. So if you'd like to be enrolled in that course, if you could just shoot me an email and let me know. It's jrhode@niu.edu. Just shoot me a quick email, let me know that you'd like to be enrolled. I can put you in that course as a student so that you can actually get in and take a look around the course from a student's perspective. And if there's any aspect of the course that you'd like to replicate or reuse, let me know, and I'm happy to share with anybody that would like to take a look. Or maybe you just want to talk more about how I set something up, certainly follow up with me. Again, if you, I'm going to put this link in the text chat again as well, and that's just for more information about the Exemplary Course Program, or maybe you'd like to submit your own course. This is a great place to go to for more information. Currently, as of today, as of September, the information that's on here on this site is the information from last year, the deadlines and such, but it will be open. They typically open the submissions in December, and I think they close them end of January, somewhere in that time frame. So maybe you're teaching a course this fall. What you can do is you can download that rubric. You can be setting up your course, trying to follow those standards, and then you can choose to submit your course after you've taught it. There's a kind of a set of steps you can go through to submit it for it to be peer reviewed, and you get some great feedback on how you can continue to tweak it and improve it in the future. So with that, we're approaching the end of our time here today. Does anybody have any questions? If you have questions, you can put those in the text chat. And the last thing I'm going to put in the text chat here today as we wrap up today is our course, our workshop evaluation. And if you could complete, before you sign off today, if you could just quickly click that link, quickly complete the evaluation, let us know, give us a quick feedback on how today's session went. We really value your feedback, and we use that as we're planning new sessions. So I will stick around for a couple more minutes if anyone has any other questions. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead. I will stop the recording at this point and thank all of you for participating live, as well as those of you that are watching the archive today. Feel free to follow up if you have any questions, if you'd like to chat further, and we hope to see you at another workshop in the future.